We usually draw the pattern first, then apply the resist. Then we paint the main motif and only then the background. But this time it will be totally different, in reverse order. My palette is not washed from the last project. In general, my dyes can be watered down after drying, and the range that's on the palette I'm quite happy with, so there's no point in washing it. The emphasis in today's art tutorial will be on the technique, so I will not show the colors of my dyes, it's not relevant today. So the technique starts with the painting the background. This is very similar to watercolor painting. I have a rough idea of what kind of drawing I want to portray. At the moment, I'm interested in the direction of the drawing, and I'm going to make it diagonal. And with a not so big brush, I'm just outlining the movement of my future drawing. You can paint lines, you can paint spots, you can paint dots, whatever you want to paint. Everything could be good for this technique. I have already mentioned that the smaller the brush, the faster the paint is used up, the more often I take a new color and the more interesting and varied the image is. And now you can already see that I'm painting paisley in the center. Oh, I love oriental motifs. Once I painted them very much on silk. In today's tutorial, in the beginning, it's not so important for us to describe the main motif in detail, but to emphasize the background, to make it a part of the paisley at once, maybe to bring some elements from the paisley into the background, and maybe even to repeat some of them exactly. Once I have defined the background, I come back to the paisley again. As you can see, the painting turns out to be quite sketchy, watercolor. And when the silk is dry, you can apply the resist. It seems to me that in this case, with such a tone of the background, it's better that it should be either dark enough or of medium tone, as I have. Nevertheless, it seems dark now, but once it dries, it will lighten up. When applying the resist, I try to stick to the pattern that is already painted with the brush. Of course, I can add finer details and vary the pattern a bit, but the fact that the resist lines doesn't perfectly match the brush drawing is okay, quite acceptable, and even good, because this small discrepancy will keep the sketchiness in our image. As I said before, in this tutorial, color and pattern is not so important. But here is a very interesting idea to first paint the background, perhaps thinking in advance about the pattern, or perhaps not. You could just randomly throw in some color patches and then see and decide what it looks like and what would you like to see on this background and what would you like to draw on it. At this stage so far it looks like this. When the resist has dried, I can proceed with painting the silk. And for now I paint only inside the resist lines. I don't touch the background. In the meantime, I would like to say a few words about silk, or more exactly about the way the paint flows on it. There are different ways of processing silk after it's woven, and if silk is not intended exclusively for painting, then it is, as far as I know, not processed at all, well, or minimally. That's why As a rule, the paint on such silk spreads well and quickly. And the silk on which I'm working today was not intended for painting, so it was undergone a more serious treatment, which does not give the fabric a lot of stretching, and it's more convenient to cut it when sewing. So the paint on this silk is not flowing very fast, but in our case this is a very good thing. It's very much like the effect of the watercolor painting on wet paper. If this silk has been washed in warm soapy water, the paint would have spread more and this effect would have been harder to achieve. But there are times when silk doesn't absorb paint at all. If you are interested, write in the comments, I will demonstrate. When the paisley is painted, it seems to me that it's possible to specify and detail some elements in the background to make a company to our paisley. I mean that we can take some fragments of the paisley and draw them with resist on the background. Now that the paisley is painted in a dark enough color, the resist seems light. But remember, at first it seemed dark. You see what an unusual approach we are using today. Sometimes you can change the order of actions, start painting silk from the background, and get such an amazing result. I think it's a very interesting technique with a lot of possibilities. Here you can also use markers to make this image more complex and rich in all sorts of small details. But that's the topic for another video.